Welcome in. It's PFF award time after grading every single player on every play in the NFL. It's time to give out some awards for the best players in the National Football League in various categories. But Sam, let's start with our top award, the overall award. It's called the Dwight Stevenson Award. Do you want to give a little background as to what exactly it is?
Yeah, we are a little bit fed up with the MVP award at PFF, Steve, because people get bogged down in the value component of MVP. And honestly, if you're that focused on value, it's always a quarterback.
Always.
But that's not fair to the other positions that play in the NFL. So we want to go for just the best player, period. Essentially, a NFL version of the Heisman Trophy, supposedly given to the best player in the NFL regardless of position. And that's why we went with Dwight Stevenson, one of the best players ever to suit up in the NFL and a real fantastic role model for this kind of award. So the PFF Dwight Stevenson Award is given to the best player in football, period.
All right, so let's get to it. The Stevenson Award and Best Pass Rusher Award, they both go to Aaron Donald, interior defensive lineman for the Los Angeles Rams. No surprise if you guys have been following PFF. Aaron Donald, year over year, is pretty much right in this conversation. We should remind you, too, this is just based off the regular season right now. But Donald's 2018 regular season was spectacular. A guy who went from the best player in the NFL last year to an improved season. His grade actually got better this year.
He really did. He's been absolutely phenomenal. Donald became just the second player since we've been grading, all the way back to 2006, to record 100 or more total pressures over the year. He got up to 106 in the regular season. That's an absolutely staggering number for any position, let alone an interior defender that shouldn't be getting that volume of pressure. Typically, edge rushers get significantly more pressure than interior guys. So for Donald to get that is staggering. Then you add in the fact that he was double teamed on 61.4% of those snaps. And that's an absolutely absurd figure that should not be able to happen.
He had 22 more pressures than the highest edge defender and 11 more pressures than the number 2 in the NFL in total pressures in Fletcher Cox. So that's just total pressures. But if you look at the pass rush grade, the reason why he won the pass rusher award and essentially the Stevenson, a 94.3 pass rush grade, that was way better than the next closest, which was Fletcher Cox at 91.9. And then you look at the run game, and he also had an incredible grade, a 93 overall grade. That was number 3 among all defensive linemen behind Big Snacks Damon Harrison, Calais Campbell, and then it's Aaron Donald, who is just the most disruptive defensive player in the NFL, hands down. It all added up to a 95.6 overall PFF grade. Easy win for him as far as the Stevenson Award and then the best pass rusher goes.
Yeah, and he is a phenomenal run defender, as you said, often gets overlooked. But as a pass rushing force, he is the best thing in the NFL right now, gets consistent pressure, is pretty much unstoppable one-on-one, and that's why you see that double team number being so high, because it's basically the only way teams can slow him down. And even then, he's still getting a record-setting amount of pressure.
All right, our best run defender award. This one might be time to rename it, Sam, because the same guy seems to be winning it every single year. It's Big Snacks Damon Harrison, who started the season as a member of the New York Giants, gets traded to the Detroit Lions. We've seen him do it with the New York Jets. Scheme doesn't matter. It matters for some guys, but for Big Snacks, it doesn't matter. Every single year, essentially the best run defender in the NFL. And the way we do our run defense grades, don't forget, we're giving guys credit when they beat blocks, when they disrupt plays, and also when they finish plays and make those tackles in and around the line of scrimmage. Big Snacks is great at both components to play in the run.
Right, he'll disrupt plays by standing up offensive linemen, just generally causing disruption at the line, but he does also make those tackles as well. And it's the 5th straight season that he's led all defensive tackles in run stop percentage. So those are those tackles at the line of scrimmage as a percentage of the plays he's on the field. 5th straight year, and in fact this year he was number 1 and number 2 on the list, because New York Giants Snacks was number 2, Detroit Lions Snacks was number 1. So he absolutely owns this particular category and could easily be the guy that the award is named after from this point on.
Should we do it? Should we make it official?
Well, let's
wait till he retires, maybe.
Right, yeah. It's a little time for the dust to settle. Let's not do anything too rash. But right now, Damon Harrison is just on a completely different level when it comes to run defense.
Congratulations to Big Snacks. Best run defender once again. All right, the best offensive lineman in the NFL. We call it the PFF Matthews Award. This year it's going to Mitchell Schwartz, the right tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. Right tackles need love as well, Sam. In today's NFL, the right tackle needs to be as good as the left tackle because pass rushers are coming from all angles. And Schwartz, playing in the AFC West, I know the Raiders traded Khalil Mack, but it's still one of the more difficult tasks as far as week in, week out facing top pass rushers.
Right, they traded away Khalil Mack, leaving Mitchell Schwartz, just Von Miller, Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram, etc. to go up against. The AFC West is still a pretty tough place to be playing offensive tackle. And you're right, if you look at the guys that Mitchell Schwartz has gone up against this year in terms of trying to block people from the right tackle position, it's been an incredible run of edge rushers that he's had to face. And despite that, he's got incredible numbers, only given up 21 total pressures, had a bunch of games where he really did shut that guy down. And he's been, I think, as good as any tackle in the NFL, not just right tackle.
Yeah, and that's on 687 pass blocking attempts, those 21 pressures. So that's a fantastic number. Also a top 10 run blocker at the tackle position. So Mitchell Schwartz, based off that, play-by-play performance plus the slate that he went up against as far as pass rushers go. Mitchell Schwartz, the best offensive lineman in the NFL, the PFF Matthews Award for this season. All right, the best receiver award at PFF, we're going with DeAndre Hopkins of the Houston Texans, a guy who the last couple of years had to deal with some subpar quarterback play. He gets a full year of Deshaun Watson, and it shows up in his PFF grade. DeAndre Hopkins wins in contested situations. He can pretty much do it all, and he was fantastic this year.
Right, and the best receiver at PFF can be any position. So tight end, any receiver out of the backfield, wide receiver, can be any of them. But Nuke Hopkins was absolutely incredible this season. No other stat encapsulates his year better than the idea of no drops throughout the entire season. So went the entire year without dropping a single pass, has the highest number of targets we've ever seen thrown to a guy with no drops. And it's not like they were all easy catches.
Right.
There was one-handed spectacular plays downfield against guys like Jalen Ramsey on that highlight reel tape. These are tough catches he's making without a single drop in there. Nuke Hopkins was absolutely phenomenal this year, particularly as for a large part of the season, the Texans really didn't have any other weapons. There was no other threat taking attention away from him, and he was still the only guy making that connection with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, Watson has had the lowest drop rate among quarterbacks over the last 2 years because he throws to Hopkins so much and the ball never hits the turf. Right. So Hopkins deserves it. He had the most first downs plus touchdowns of any receiver in the NFL with 81. Our best coverage player in the NFL, we're going with Eddie Jackson, the free safety of the Chicago Bears. That Bears defense was phenomenal this year. They did a really nice job on the back end. The corners played really well, but Eddie Jackson was a big play machine for that defense.
And again, this award is regardless of position. So in the past, cornerbacks have won this. A linebacker, Luke Kuechly, is a previous winner of this award because of the crazy things he can do in coverage. But Eddie Jackson this season was the guy that really took a step forward within that defense. A year ago, Adrian Amos had exceptional grades at PFF, largely built off not making mistakes at safety. Didn't necessarily have the flashy plays, but was very rarely the cause of any kind of mistake. But Eddie Jackson had the flashy plays as well. He was making big plays all the way throughout the season, and a big part of the Chicago defense being so good.
Yeah, he had 6 interceptions, 8 pass breakups, a passer rating of only 54.9 into his coverage, pick sixes, fumble sixes. He was a big play machine for the Bears this season. Let's get back to some offensive linemen. The best run blocker this year, it's Ryan Ramczyk, the right tackle for the New Orleans Saints. Had one of the top run blocking grades in the NFL. But again, when we're putting the context in and what he's asked to do, he makes every single block in the book when it comes to the run game.
He does, and he's a guy who, when you turn on the tape, you immediately see the kind of impact he's having in the run game. Can just absolutely destroy people at the point of attack, whether it's on those down blocks against defensive linemen, whether it's out in space against smaller guys. He will eradicate people from the run game, and it's a huge part of the reason that Saints rushing attack was so successful this season.
And when you look at our run blocking grades, you can get positive grades. So when you do something well, you can get negative grades when you really struggle. Ramczyk was good at both. Sometimes you have guys that are a little bit boom or bust. He had the number 4 highest percentage of positively graded blocks, but the number 2 lowest percentage of negatively graded blocks. So he won a lot and he lost very few. And that combination leads to the best run blocking grade, Ryan Ramczyk of the Saints. Let's stick with the offensive line and go with the best pass blocker. It is David Bakhtiari, the left tackle for the Green Bay Packers, who now, Sam, has become the Joe Thomas of
Yeah.
left tackles?
Right, I think as soon as Joe Thomas retired, David Bakhtiari had become the gold standard for pass blocking at tackle in the NFL. He's been incredible at that throughout his career, and we've seen it again this season. You know, he deals with a quarterback in Aaron Rodgers who can sometimes help his offensive linemen, you know, reset their leverage a little bit within the pocket, but he can also hurt them because he holds the ball an extremely long time compared with a lot of other quarterbacks, and that asks those guys to pass block for an extended period of time. And not only was he pass blocking on 691 attempts this year, but a lot of those were these long time situations, and he still only gave up 25 total pressures. So this was a phenomenal performance from David Bakhtiari, part of the reason why his grade was so high.
Yeah, 93.6 pass blocking grade, by far the best in the NFL among all offensive linemen. And finally, our breakout player of the year. We sometimes call it most improved, but the guy who broke out this year, Andrew Luck was in the mix, but Jalen Smith, linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys, coming back from an injury that people thought could potentially end his career, and then he combines with Leighton Vander Esch to form probably the best young linebacking duo in the entire NFL.
Yeah, I think that's the key to this award. There were so many guys that broke out and could potentially have been named for this. But, you know, we've seen Jalen Smith on the field last season coming back from that injury, and he was never quite the player that he was supposed to be. But this is the year that we finally started to see the realization of all that potential from pre-injury Jalen Smith. You know, the healthy linebacker that we saw at Notre Dame, capable of making all these big plays and having a huge impact. He had such a step forward between last season and this season. That's why he's being named as our breakout guy.
And when you look at a linebacker, it's always nice to see them in all phases. Our number 6 overall linebacker at 84.4. He also added 16 pressures as a pass rusher, 79.8 coverage grade, so he was fantastic there, and he was solid against the run. So Jalen Smith, the breakout player of 2018. So there you have it. It's your PFF awards based off our play-by-play grading. Be sure to get the full breakdown over at ProFootballFocus.com.